Brooke, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
I'm excited to connect with you also because you're like on the opposite side of where I reside. And I wanted to bring you to the show because you have such a beautiful perspective on budgeting as well as saving and investing without inconsistent income. And I want to talk about that, but also I want to talk about you because you are someone who I really like enjoy watching and listening to. For those listeners that aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you grow up? What do you do? And yeah, just give us a tea.
Yeah, so give us the tea, give us the lore. My name is Brooke Benson. I am an anti-budget money coach, and I also work as an actor here in New York City. So my company is called Not Starving Artists, and this was a company that came out of me having to figure out my own money shit as an artist, as a freelancer, as someone whose income fluctuated, but also knowing that I wanted financial stability. I wasn't willing to compromise my creative passions and the kind of lifestyle that I wanted for financial abundance, financial stability. And so from a young age, right, neither of my parents are artists. I mean, they are creatives in their own way, but my dad was working a 9 to 5. My mom was a stay at home mom. My mom now works in the corporate world. So it was this very traditional way of making money, a nuclear family style. So a lot of the money advice that I received from my parents, who are very knowledgeable with money, very good with their money, good stewards of their money, but all of their advice was based off of a biweekly paycheck and budgets and spreadsheets. And so for me, someone who has a creative type B brain, spreadsheets and budgeting, like that whole world, it's like my brain couldn't compute it, right? Exactly. And so what I realized was, okay, if I'm going to figure out how to make this money stuff work, not only does it tactically have to look different for me with fluctuating income and with how my brain is working, but also then I realized there was this emotional element, this mindset element where I needed to be able to relate to my money like I related to everything else in my life. Money couldn't be this like foreign thing that I had to shove myself into the box of to try and live a stable lifestyle. Like I needed money to feel like something I could be friends with, like something that supported me, like I could talk about, like I talk about everything else in my life. And so that is when I went on my personal journey with money. And then, of course, when I figured that out, I was like, the people got to know about this. The neurospicy creatives, the people who hate budgeting, the people who have inconsistent income, like, we have got to show them that there is a different way to feel financially secure without those traditional budgeting financial advice methods.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I mean, if not all of it doesn't apply to the lifestyle that creators have. And you said something so powerful about wanting to have a good relationship with your money. And also as a creative, you don't want to spend thousands and thousands of hours a year trying to like micromanage every single penny. And that's why I wanted to bring you to the podcast because your perspective is so unique. And also it's your own personal journey, right? Like as a creative, also as a money coach, you have inconsistent income both ways. So you're never like,
Yeah.
today is the 20th or the 15th of every month. Here comes my paycheck. So how have you been able to create a financial safety that allows you to still be creative and still be able to travel and go places and invest?
For sure. So the tactical element is always the thing that came first for me and always the thing that I start with when I'm working with clients, the practical side. Because what I quickly realized having fluctuating income is that I wasn't going to be able to live a biweekly paycheck lifestyle, right? Like I couldn't wait every 2 weeks for the new money to come in. What I also realized was that I needed to manage my money only one time a month for two reasons. One, as a creative, and I believe for all artists and also human beings whose passion is not money in this world, like you need to be focusing all of your extra hours on doing the thing that is your zone of genius that you were put on this world to do. And so only managing money 1 hour a month frees up the rest of your time to do the shit you actually care about and are meant to do. But then the other thing is, Managing your money one time a month forces you to see your money from a higher perspective, a bigger picture view. Because income, if you are a self employed business owner, if you're a freelancer, if you're any kind of creative or service provider, the money fluctuation waves, you don't want to be looking day to day, week to week. You've got to be looking month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year. If you are zoomed way too close in on your money, like if you are managing it too much, it's going to freak you out more and it's going to cause your anxiety to spike more. And you're not going to be able to get clear data about your money because the day to day picture doesn't tell you anything of substance. It's the month to month cadence, right? Where you're watching your income fill up throughout. You're going to, I mean, and this is the method that I teach my clients. It's called the money flow method. You then fill up your bank accounts for the month ahead, and any surplus, any extra gets put into your savings so that when you have a lower income month, you can use that money to buffer you so you can live the same kind of lifestyle month after month after month, no matter what your income is doing. We all talk big talk about nervous system regulation, but the best thing you can do to regulate your nervous system is not have to go to from like feast and famine every 2 months.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like about what you're saying right now is also thinking of yourself as a creative, as a business entity that doesn't always have the same reoccurring revenue, and that you have to plan for the slow season. You also have to plan for the high seasons. You have to plan for the no seasons at all. When, in your case, when you're going on calls to get hired as an actress or even as a money coach, like people are not coming, and then it's like, what do I do now? Now, I want to go back to the moment when you save your first, let's call it $10,000, right? How did you plan for that money to make sure that you had the $10,000? And if you've been able to save more than that, please share. But just walk us through the process, the mindset, and then the systems you implemented.
Yes. Okay, Lucy, I'm so glad you asked this specific question because one of the stories I tell all the time is when I saved my first big chunk of money, which was $23,000. And it was about a year out of college. And with the systems that I had created as a freelancer, right? This money flow method I was talking about, using my high income months to buffer my low income months, being conscious of my spending, right? I wasn't line item tracking, but I was aware of my dollars. I was able to save $23,000. Thought that that would solve all my problems. Like I thought I was going to be like feeling good, money anxiety gone. Like I used to have panic attacks about money. And there was a moment where I was looking at that $23,000 in my bank account and I was having a panic attack about not being able to pay rent. And I was like, wait a minute, this math is not mathing. That $23,000 should have made me feel better. But what happened is I forgot to bring like my mindset and my emotions and my identity as like no longer a starving artist along with me as I was building up that money. So then when I did do the emotional work, I was like, hell yeah, $23,000, right? I knew what that was for. It did bring me a sense of safety, but only when I added in that emotional element.
I love that. And I also want to talk about the identity because a lot of people are used to the, hey, after 2 weeks I get paid. And is the identity of like, okay, it's my secure. They call it secure, but you and I know that it's not secure. Secure paycheck. But with you is the identity of, I'm just gonna have this safety, but then I'm gonna keep looking for opportunities. Now I know you, we have been connected, I want to say, for 2 years now.
Yeah, it's
And
been a while.
I also want to talk about investing because a lot of the listeners, and for those of you that are watching on YouTube, listen up. A lot of the people say, well, I'll just wait until I have consistent income. Or, well, must be nice for Lucy or Brooke, but it's not possible for me to invest. What would you say to that listener?
Absolutely not. You can invest right now with $5. Now, why I'm sure you feel the exact same way, right? Like I feel like any money person you talk to is going to be like, you can invest now and you should right now, right? What's that saying where it's like the best time to invest was yesterday, the second best time is now? So, what I will say about feeling like, and I mean, this goes with everything. Like, I can't save until I have consistent income. I can't invest. I can't, buy these things, or I can't do XYZ until I have stability, until life calms down, until I have that consistent paycheck, right? But what's happening is like you're forgetting that you get to have all of the things. Like the reason you feel you can't do those things with inconsistent income is because you don't have a system to manage inconsistent income. Like inconsistent income just means high months and low months. That's all it is. So when you have high months, if you know what you spend and what it costs to live as you, what your business costs to live, you will have a surplus in your high months. And if you don't have high months, great. Now we got to work on your sales. Now we got to work on your marketing. Now we got to work on your pitching, right? It's very clear what then that problem is. But when you have surplus, it's important to understand what your financial goals are so you can funnel that surplus money towards investing, towards your savings, towards those future things, while also supporting yourself now, right? Otherwise, it's just going to disappear into the abyss of your checking account. There's this myth that some magic income number equals it being easy to save and invest, and that doesn't happen unless you actually implement it where you are right now. That's what makes it easier when the income grows to increase the amounts you're contributing, which is why I always say no matter where you're at, you're going to open that investment account if you don't have one open already, and you're going to invest $5. And I don't care if you don't invest another dollar for a whole nother year, you get it open, you invest $5 so the avenue is open for you when more income starts coming in.
Yeah, and I love the proactive way on how you're telling the listeners, like, open the account, open the investment, like, do these things. I know for the listeners, they're very much on like, I have to have everything checked off. Like my listeners, and yes, I'm talking to you, struggle with perfectionism. Like, hey, I have to have the knowledge, the
Join the
systems,
club, yeah.
right? And so you and I have been there. But earlier you mentioned something that really makes me curious more about your relationship, not just with money, but your relationship with earning. Because as a creative, you also have to advocate for your pay. And you and I both know that a lot of creative people are like, well, if I can just have the opportunity to be on the show, or if I can just have the opportunity to be on the stage, or if I can just have the opportunity to work with my dream company, doesn't matter how much they pay me. How has healing your relationship with money help you with your relationship with earning?
That's such a good question because, yeah, they're 100% connected. Because even though money itself is a resource and has no like moral weight, it doesn't mean anything about you, it's a very big mirror to our own selves, right? And so we put a lot of weight on what money means about us. And so a lot of times when we don't feel worthy, and even worthy has so much wrapped up into it as a specific term, but if we don't feel confident in our skill set receiving money, right, for whatever reason, we are going to perpetuate that, right? Like that's what this starving artist cycle is that I talk about all the time, where we love our craft and our art so much that we will do whatever we need to in order to continue to live as artists, which usually means accepting less than what we are supposed to be paid. We are worthy of being paid, staying non-union. This is for my actors, staying non-union for longer than you should, even playing the union non-union game, because you might not get hired as often as a union actor because you cost more, but like you cost more for a reason, right? And so I'll share an example of when I joined the actors union. One of the reasons that I joined the Actors Union, I was like forced into it based on the amount of credits I had. But at that time, I was also deciding that if I wanted to be a higher caliber actor, I wanted to put myself in the pool of higher caliber actors. Now, being a union actor doesn't mean I'm a better actor than non-union actors. There are so many talented non-union actors. And this is a very nuanced conversation. But when you put yourself in that pool of like, you're going to have to pay me more in order to get my talent. Am I up to that challenge? Do I believe I'm worth that? And so I always tell actors, right? Like, join the union when you're ready to take on that challenge, not when you believe that, right? Like, you have to put yourself in a situation where you're forced to believe it a lot of times instead of having to drum it up. And so when I think about earning, right, and this goes for service providers, business owners, even people who are in corporate jobs, sometimes you just have to let your brain say, I'm going to go for this promotion. I'm going to ask for more. I'm going to price this. Put yourself in that situation. See all the mindset work that comes up, all of the limiting beliefs that come up, and work on them as you've put yourself in that situation.
I love this. I'm just like, I can even like, I'm just like, keep listening to you. As you're talking, I'm thinking, wow, creative people are very, very passionate, but also very emotional. I mean, you have to be, right, to be in the industry that you chose to be part of. I want to ask you, in terms of your money, what have you been able to do with this method that you teach that is like no budget method? Because I see you investing, I see you saving. What else are you doing with your money?
Yeah. So, yeah, all those things. So, I invest, I max out my IRA every single year. And because of when I started, that's really all I have to do for the rest of my life to be a multimillionaire in retirement. So, let me just like put a little ping there of like the earlier you start, the less money you actually have to put in. I will put in more in the future, but that earliness of me investing, right? And being able to do that on fluctuating income has given me more flexibility to build up a really thick emergency fund. And I call it an on deck buffer fund because for creatives, freelancers, and self employed people, our income dipping is not an emergency. That's something that will happen. So, like, let's not call it an emergency fund. So, I've actually been able to take some hiatuses from Instagram or from like pulling back from my marketing when I was going through some like family stuff, some stuff in the world that I was having to process. Again, I'm a big feeler, right? So sometimes I need to pull back. And I've had this like hiatus on deck money to be able to support me when I'm intentionally choosing for my income to go down, which I think is a gift that everyone should strive to be able to give themselves, right? Like if you have to go on medical leave, if you want to have a kid and take your own maternity leave, right? Like these are things self employed people, we don't get given by a company. We have to give that to ourselves. So some of those things, but then some of the fun things that I've been able to do is I was able to move to New York City and I moved from Florida, then to Denver. I did like two huge cross country moves in the span of 2 years. And now I live in like a really lovely, incredible apartment here in the city. I'm living a lifestyle that I never thought I'd be able to live in a high cost of living city. Like I've got a bathtub and that was a non-negotiable for me. And that sounds crazy, but I take a bath every single night.
But
So
that's
like I was able.
where you reside. Like that is a luxury feature of an apartment.
Yes, it is. So like I have a bathtub and I have a washer and dryer. And like if you live in New York City, you know that that's a luxury. So I was able to give that gift to myself with all like the craziness of living here in the city. I was able to do that. And the other thing I've been able to do, like a huge part of why I wanted financial wellness in the first place, this is one of my core drivers, was that my family means so much to me. And we all live across the country. Like we live in the furthest points of the country. My sister's out in LA. I'm here in New York and my parents are down in the panhandle of Florida. So to be able to visit each other, right? Like those are long flights, those are trips, right? But that's a really big thing for me that I see them at least 4 times a year, right? So being able to add in travel and, you know, the quantity of travel, right? Of being able to book a last minute flight. Like my sister, she just got cast in an all trans cast of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, the musical. And it's on her birthday weekend. So my whole family is going to get to go down and we're all going to go see her perform in this show, which we haven't been able to see her perform since high school. So being able to do something like that last minute is like things that I will never take for granted as an artist who didn't even think like I'd be able to consistently pay rent on an apartment. Now I get to book a last minute flight to go see my sister in a show. Like that's what financial wellness is, right? It's not
Yeah.
the money in the bank account, it's this stuff.
And you guys, for those of you that are listening, you can see her excitement, but I can almost see that she's ready to cry. And I'm like, I get goosebumps. I'm like ready to cry because that is why it's so important to make the time to redefine what it means to be wealthy, what it means to have financial freedom, because not everything is for tomorrow. Like, okay, I'm getting the goosebumps now. Like we can spend and travel and do all of these fun things with our family, with our loved ones, without feeling like, oh my god, what's gonna happen tomorrow, right? As I'm hearing you out, I hear excitement. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go spend my money. I'm not hearing like, oh my god, why? I'm gonna go spend my money. Like you're excited about it. And that's why I wanted the listeners to get to know you, Brooke, because you add excitement to money, and I love that. Now I want to ask you, because I'm a little bit nosy, okay? How do you manage your finances with your partner, or do you?
Oh my God. Oh, I love this question. I'm actually doing a podcast episode this week on how to have money conversations with a partner. I love talking about this. So, my partner and I have been together for like 6, 7 years, 6.5, I think, at this point. And we have completely separate money flows. So, we have completely separate bank accounts, but we have a joined financial life. So, what that means is we split the bills pretty much 50-50, and we have our own separate bank accounts. But every single month we have a money date together where we will literally pull our bank accounts up with each other and be like, this is what I've got, here's what's going on. He actually just paid off his final credit card, so he's officially debt free this month, which I'm so excited for him, while he was saving. So like, he has a fully funded emergency fund. He also went on vacations during it. I'm so proud of him. But we'll like celebrate with each other, right? But we are able to like spend how we want and also put money towards joint goals, right? Like joint vacations. We're both in alignment for what we want to contribute to retirement for our future. We have joint goals. So we have money conversations together every single month, but our actual bank accounts are completely separate.
And I love these, but I'm gonna dig deeper because that's what I do. Okay, I love good gossip. At the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned that your parents are very good with their money, like spreadsheets and all of that. How is that different than what you do with your partner?
That's a great question. So, my parents growing up, they like when I was growing up, they were completely joined financially. So, and I think that's like also a generational thing. So, when they graduated college, right, like they moved in together. My mom she was a teacher for a while, but then when I was born, I'm the oldest, she became a stay at home mom, and my dad was working and providing for the family. So, all of their money, it's always been conjoined, it's always been joint bank accounts. When my mom went back to work, joint bank accounts. So they had money conversations and made financial decisions together, but everything was all together in singular bank accounts. My partner and I have separate bank accounts, but still have all of the same kinds of money conversations. And I think that when we're talking like generationally and also how the like landscape is different, my partner and I don't have kids. We plan to be child free for the rest of our lives. We both have totally separate career paths, and he has a biweekly paycheck. I have inconsistent income. I have my own business. So just tactically, it makes more sense for us to be separate. I don't think that's the way every couple should do it, but I want to highlight this, and I'm glad you brought this up, that every couple is going to have a different way of managing their money. What I will say is my parents, I remember them doing the cash envelope system, the Dave Ramsey style, right? Like I remember those envelopes. And I remember distinctly when they transitioned out of using those envelopes. And that being like a very, I don't want to say jarring thing for them, but a relearning how to spend and manage money without using the envelopes, right? And this is why I don't preach budgeting, because I can't imagine myself budgeting for the rest of my life. So why would I start now? I want to figure out a way that lets me spend freely now. So I remember them transitioning out of cash envelopes, and now they're nearing retirement. And so now watching them have like this season of life opening up to them where they're not going to have any paychecks coming in, and they've totally set themselves up for retirement, right? Like they have all the money they could need for the rest of their life, but then that emotional stuff coming in of like, and now we are no longer ever bringing in money again, we're just going to be spending it, and how scary that can feel. So it's been really interesting watching their phases of money.
Well, I want to be like a fly on the wall for them. Like, how are they going to do this, right? So when
Yeah.
I started my journey, because I am very like, or I was much of a money avoidant and I love spending. I still do. I actually use the cash envelope method just to help me understand the, I guess, like the tangible aspect of actually feeling money because I was so afraid of even looking at it. And I said, well, what if I can just touch it? Like, how do I want to feel when I'm like letting that dollar go or even opening the envelope? And I think I used it for like a month, and after that, I was like, "Yeah, this is now for me." Like, and I am a creative person as well, just like you. I don't think I ever thought of me as being a creative back when I started, but I am a very creative person as well. And so now I'm like, I don't want to be like married to my budget. I want my money to work for me, and then I want to have the flow of yes, I have cash. Yes, I can spend. Yes, I can invest. So I love this conversation so much, but now I want you to share when can listeners find you and learn more about you?
Yes. So I am most active right now over on Instagram. I am at Not Starving Artists, plural. You can also find me at notstarvingartists.com. And I also have a podcast called Not Starving Artists, available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube as well. And again, the one coming out this week is going to be about money conversations with a partner. So I'm actually going to go deeper into the conversations my partner and I had when we were first dating, right? And how we were going to navigate money when we like decided to join our lives. So you can find that all of those places. And I do a lot of like ask me anything question boxes all the time. You can also email me at support@notstarvingartist.com if you ever have any questions. And I do have two ways to work with me if you want to dive in deeper. First is my online course called Cashed Up Creatives, which is the financial education your school never gave you. It gives you a full breakdown of the anti budget money strategy, the money flow method that I was talking about here in this episode, Finances 101, how to invest, all that good stuff, as well as trickling in some mindset work as well. And then if you want some deeper work, you want more accountability, more one on one support, I do offer private money mentorship. So you can find all of the details, the price point, the package details, the course details, all at my website or at the link in my bio, again, at Not Starving Artists, and you can find all the information there.
Thank you so much. And listeners, make sure that you check the link in the show notes just for an easy access to get to Brooke's Instagram. Thank you so much for being here. I love this conversation. And when I'm in New York, I'm going to message you in advance and be like, hey, I'm coming. Open the door.
Please. Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. It was so good to talk to you.
My pleasure. Thanks again.